Some months ago, I received a letter from a woman in Ohio. She is 72 years old. She wrote to me, not asking for a blessing, not asking for a teaching, just wanting someone to know what had happened to her. Her daughter had sent her a text message, 3 sentences. The last one said, "Please do not contact me again." That was 11 months before she wrote to me. 11 months of silence. She wrote, "Venerable, I have not told anyone. I am ashamed. I wake up at 3 in the morning and I check my phone, and every morning there is nothing." If you are watching this today, perhaps you know exactly what that feels like. Perhaps it is not a daughter. Perhaps it is a son, a grandchild, someone you loved and raised and held when they were small. And somewhere along the road, something broke. And now the silence is louder than anything you have ever known. I want to speak to you today, directly, honestly, without pretending this is simple, because it is not simple. This is one of the most painful things a human heart can carry. But I also want to tell you what the Buddha taught, not to explain away your pain, not to tell you that you should not feel it, but to offer you a path, a way to survive, a way to keep your heart from turning to stone. There are 7 ways I want to share with you today. Please sit with me for a little while. Before we begin, I want to say something that I think you need to hear. You are not alone in this. In this country, researchers have found that roughly 1 in 4 adults is estranged from a family member. That means right now, while you watch this video, there are millions of people, millions of mothers and fathers, grandparents, aunts and uncles, sitting in their homes carrying this same wound. The phone that doesn't ring, the holidays spent pretending everything is fine, the fear of telling anyone because of what they might think. Our society tells us that family is everything. And so when a child walks away, we feel not just the loss of that relationship, we feel the shame of it. As if the estrangement is proof of our failure as a parent. As if we must have done something terribly wrong to deserve this. I want to gently question that. Not to say that we are always innocent. We are not. None of us is a perfect parent. None of us raised our children without error. But the equation that says, if your child left, you must be a bad person, that equation is too simple. It does not account for the complexity of human relationships, for your child's own suffering, for the misunderstandings that build over decades, for the ways families can fracture without anyone being purely a villain. The Buddha never promised us that love would not hurt. What he promised was a path through the hurt, not around it, not above it, through. Let us walk that path together now. The first way is this. Stop replaying the last conversation. I want you to think for a moment about what your mind does late at night, or early in the morning, or in those quiet moments when there is nothing to distract you. Does it go back there, to that final conversation, that argument, that text, that silence when you expected a call? Does it replay the words, what was said, what you wish you had said differently, what you wish you had never said at all? In Pali, the ancient language of the Buddhist scriptures, there is a word for this, papancha. It means mental proliferation, the mind's tendency to take a moment of pain and spin it, expand it, layer story upon story upon story. Each time the mind replays the scene, it adds a new interpretation, a new layer of blame, a new layer of regret, and the scene grows larger and more painful than what actually happened. Here is something important to understand. When you are replaying that conversation at 3 in the morning, you are not actually in that conversation. that conversation is over. You are in your own mind's version of it, and your mind has been editing it, darkening it, making the other person's words crueler and your own responses more foolish every single time. You are not remembering reality. You are creating a prison inside your own mind and locking yourself in it. Now, I am not saying to pretend it didn't happen. I am not saying to push the memory away, but there is a practice I want to offer you. The next time you feel the replay beginning, that pull back into the loop, place one hand gently on the center of your chest. Feel the warmth of your own hand. Take one slow breath in and say, very quietly inside yourself, this is memory, not reality. Right now, I am here. I am safe. I am breathing. That is all, just that. You are interrupting the loop. You are reminding yourself that you have a present moment, even inside the grief. The second way, grieve fully, but do not become your grief. In the Pali scriptures, there is a beautiful and powerful teaching called the Salata Sutta, the discourse on the arrow. The Buddha describes how, when we experience pain, we are struck by an arrow. That is the first arrow, the pain itself, the estrangement, the silence, the text message that ended everything. But then, and this is the crucial part, most of us immediately fire a second arrow into ourselves. The second arrow is the story we tell about the pain. I am a terrible parent. I wasted my life. I will die alone. I deserve this. What kind of person am I that my own child does not want me? The first arrow is painful. That cannot be helped right now. But the second arrow, we fire that one ourselves, and it is often far more destructive than the first. I want to help you learn the difference between feeling your grief and building your identity around your grief. Feeling grief means I am sad. My heart is heavy. I miss my child. I wish things were different. These are real, honest human feelings. Let them come. They deserve to be felt. But becoming your grief means I am the abandoned parent. That is who I am now. My life has no meaning. Nothing will ever be good again. That is the second arrow. That is the story that will hollow you out if you let it. You are not the abandoned parent. You are a full human being with a past, a present, a depth of experience, a capacity for love, who is going through an experience of estrangement. Those are two very different things. Here is something practical I want to offer you. Each day, allow yourself 15 minutes to feel the grief fully. Set a gentle alarm if you need to. Sit quietly. Let the tears come if they come. Let the ache be present. Do not fight it. Do not judge it. And when the 15 minutes ends, gently return to the present moment. This is not suppression. You are not pretending the pain is gone. You are giving the grief its space and also giving your life its space. The third way is perhaps the most difficult one. Let go of the need to understand exactly why this happened. I have sat with many parents who are in this kind of pain, and almost all of them at some point say the same thing. If I could just understand why, if I could just know what I did that was so terrible, then I could fix it. Or at least I could make peace with it. I understand this deeply. The human mind craves explanation. It wants a reason. It wants to find the one conversation, the one moment, the one mistake and say, there, that is where it went wrong. Now I understand. But often, the why is not available to us. And even when we think we know the why, we are still only seeing part of the picture. Because your child's decision to step away lives inside their mind, shaped by their perceptions, their own wounds, their own suffering. Perhaps experiences and influences that had nothing to do with you. Perhaps things you cannot see and may never know. In the Buddhist tradition, there are certain things called achintaya, the imponderables, things that cannot be fully figured out through thinking alone. The workings of another person's mind and heart is one of them. You can speculate, you can analyze, you can replay every conversation for the rest of your life, but you may never receive a satisfying answer. And chasing one can become its own form of imprisonment. Here is something I invite you to try. Take a piece of paper. Write down every why question you carry. Why did she say that? Why won't he explain? Why now, after all these years? Why after everything I sacrificed? Write them all down. Read them aloud, once, slowly, as if you are reading a letter to the universe. Then fold the paper carefully. Put it somewhere safe. You have honored the questions. You have not buried them. But you have also decided, for today, to put them down. You cannot carry them every moment of every day and also live your life. The fourth way, forgive yourself. This one is not easy for most Western people to hear, because many of you were raised to believe that forgiveness must be earned, that you cannot ask to be forgiven until you fully understand and confess every wrong thing you did. And since you may not know the full list of your offenses, since your child may not be telling you, the idea of forgiving yourself can feel like making excuses. I want to offer a different understanding. In Buddhism, metta, loving kindness, begins with oneself. Not because we are most important, but because a heart that is filled with self-condemnation cannot truly love anyone else. You cannot give water from an empty well. Here is what I believe is true. You did what you knew how to do at the time you did it, with the understanding, the maturity, the emotional tools, and the life circumstances you had at that moment. If you had known better, if you had truly understood the impact of what you were doing, you would have done it differently. That is not an excuse. That is the reality of how human beings work. We grow, we learn, we look back and see clearly what we could not see then. That parent you were 20 years ago, 30 years ago, was doing their best with what they had. They made mistakes, perhaps significant ones. But they were also carrying their own wounds, their own fears, their own unfinished business from their childhood. I want to offer you a simple practice. Place both hands on your heart, close your eyes, and say these words, slowly, as if speaking to the younger version of yourself. I was imperfect. I caused harm I did not fully intend. I did not always understand what my child needed. I am sorry. And I forgive myself for the person I was then, who was doing the best they could. You can say it again tomorrow. You may need to say it for many weeks before it lands in your heart. That is fine. Say it anyway. The fifth way requires great balance and great wisdom. Keep the door open, but go live your life in the other room. When someone we love has asked us not to contact them, there is a powerful urge to keep trying, to call one more time, to send one more letter, to ask another family member to pass along a message, to show up unexpectedly at an event where you know they'll be. The heart is desperate. The heart says, if I just try one more time in the right words, they will understand. They will come back. I have to say this gently, but clearly. When we do these things, we are not honoring our child's stated boundary. And by failing to honor that boundary, we are often pushing reconciliation further away, not closer. We are making the estrangement about our need for relief, rather than about genuine repair. The Buddhist teaching of upekkha, equanimity, is relevant here. Equanimity does not mean you don't care. It means you care deeply and you have learned to hold that care without desperately clutching at outcomes. You can love someone and not need them to immediately respond in the way you want. Here is the balance I am pointing toward. Respect the stated boundary. Do not call, do not text repeatedly, do not send messages through relatives. Give your child the space they have asked for, even though it is agonizing. And keep a small light on. Once a year, on their birthday perhaps, or at the new year, you may send one brief, simple, non-pressuring message. Something like, I love you, I think of you. There is no need to respond. Say nothing that demands a reply. Place no guilt in it. Then put the phone down and do not check it for the rest of the day. That message is not for the purpose of changing their mind. It is simply to let them know whenever they are ready, if they are ever ready, that the door is unlocked. But you do not stand in the doorway every day, staring down the road. You go back inside. You go live. This brings me to the sixth way, one that I consider an act of great courage. Build a life that is not organized around waiting. The greatest danger that estrangement poses to older parents is not the grief itself. Grief can be survived. The greatest danger is that your entire life, your entire sense of meaning collapses inward around a single question. Will they call? Every morning you wake up and that question is already there before your eyes are open. Every holiday, every birthday, every time the phone rings from an unknown number, your whole being contracts around the hope and the dread. And while you are waiting, your life is passing. Seasons are changing outside your window. Neighbors need kindness. A grandchild you do have access to is growing up. A community that needs your wisdom exists nearby. Skills you always wanted to develop are waiting. Friends who would love your company are sitting in their own lonely houses. In the Eightfold Path, the Buddha teaches Samma Vayama, right effort. Not forcing, not striving beyond our capacity, but making genuine, consistent effort toward what is wholesome and alive. And in the Sangha, the community of spiritual friends, the Buddha saw one of the three great refuges of human life, precisely because community holds us when our immediate family cannot. I am not telling you to replace your child. Nothing and no one replaces a child. I know that. But I am asking you, what would it mean to decide, even while the grief is present, that you still deserve a life? What if you volunteered once a week at a place where your presence genuinely helps someone? What if you joined a meditation group, a book club, a garden, a choir? What if you allowed yourself to receive the love that is available to you, rather than spending every day mourning the love that is currently unavailable? Your worth, your full, irreducible worth as a human being was never determined by whether your children speak to you. You were worthy before they were born. You remain worthy now. And now, the seventh way, the one that is perhaps the most profound, the one the Buddha returned to again and again. Send loving kindness, even when there is no one there to receive it. Metta Bhavana, the cultivation of loving kindness, is one of the oldest practices in the Buddhist tradition. It is the practice of deliberately cultivating love and goodwill, not as a feeling we wait to spontaneously arise, but as something we actively generate, like tending a fire. And one of the most powerful and most counterintuitive applications of metta is directing it toward people who have hurt us, people who are no longer in our lives, people who have closed the door on us. I want to be clear about what metta is not. It is not a technique to win your child back. It is not a way of sending psychic messages that will change their mind. It is not spiritual manipulation. What it is this: a way to keep your own heart open, a way to protect yourself from the slow, quiet poison of bitterness. Because bitterness, resentment, is something you drink alone, hoping someone else will suffer from it. And in the end, it only destroys the one who drinks. Each evening, I invite you to sit quietly for just 5 minutes. Close your eyes, take a few slow breaths. Bring to mind the image of your child, not in the moment of conflict, but perhaps when they were young, or in a moment when things were good between you, a real memory. Let yourself feel, even for a moment, the love that is still present in you. It didn't go away when they did. And then, quietly, send these words toward them. May you be happy. May you be free from suffering. May you find peace. May you be well. Say it 4 times. Then let the image go gently, like releasing a paper lantern onto the water. You are not clutching. You are not demanding. You are simply offering love into the silence, into the distance, because that is who you have chosen to be. Do this every night, not for them, for you, for the preservation of your own heart. I want to share something with you that I find both challenging and deeply reassuring. The Buddha himself left his family. When he was 29 years old, he left his palace, his wife Yasodhara, and his newborn son Rahula. He did not do this without love. He wept at his son's bedside before he left. But he understood that the path he had to walk required him to release those bonds, at least for a time. Later, when the Buddha had attained enlightenment and was teaching, Rahula came to him. Yasodhara sent the boy, now a young man, to receive his inheritance. The Buddha's response was to ordain his own son as a monk. He did not restore the family in the way the world might expect. He transformed the relationship into something different, something rooted in the Dharma rather than in conventional expectation. I am not suggesting you should want the relationship with your child to be transformed in such a radical way. But I am pointing to something the Buddha understood deeply, that family bonds are among the most powerful attachments we form in this human life. And because they are so powerful, they are among the most powerful sources of dukkha, of suffering, when they are disrupted. This is not because love is wrong. Love is among the most beautiful things we can experience. But there is a quality in our love that can become something more like clinging, a demand that the relationship must look exactly as we need it to look, that our child must love us in a particular way, that the family must conform to our image of what family should be. And when reality does not match that image, the suffering can be immense. The path the Buddha offers is not to stop loving. It is to learn to love with open hands, love that does not grasp, love that does not keep score, love that says, I love you, fully and without condition, and I release you to live your own life, to make your own choices, to walk your own path, even if that path takes you away from me. That is not giving up. That is the highest form of love there is. I want to speak to you now not as a teacher, but simply as one human being to another. I know that some of you watching this are sitting alone right now, perhaps in a room that once held more laughter, perhaps looking at photographs on a shelf that no longer reflect the family you thought you were building. The house is quiet, the phone has not rung, and in the quiet, a question rises up that is almost too painful to hold. Do I still matter? I want to answer that question directly. Yes, you matter. Not because of what your children say or don't say, not because of what you accomplished, not because of whether you were a perfect parent or a flawed one. You matter because you are a living, breathing, feeling human being. You matter because somewhere in you, even now, there is still the capacity for love. Love that has not died even though it has nowhere to go right now. You matter because your life is not finished. Because the capacity for growth, for wisdom, for healing, these do not expire at 60 or 70 or 80. In the Buddhist understanding, the possibility of awakening, of genuine inner freedom, is available to every being in every moment until the last breath. Especially in the hard moments, especially now. So I invite you, if this talk has offered you something, even one small thing, perhaps share it with a friend who is carrying a similar weight. You never know who in your circle is sitting with this same silence, this same 3 in the morning checking of the phone. And if you are perhaps a child who has stepped away from a parent, I am not here to judge you. You have your own story, your own pain, your own very good reasons. I only ask that someday, when you are ready, you consider whether the door might be opened just a little, not for their sake alone, but for yours. Because none of us lives forever, and some doors, once closed for too long, can become very hard to reopen. May you be at peace. May you know that you are loved. May you find your way through this pain to something wide and open on the other side. Namo Buddhaya.